Good morning, business students. So this video is for my lower and upper sixth. So lower sixth, you've just finished motivation theory. You've read the chapter on leadership, and we did an activity last lesson on this. Clearly, we're going to now teach it. Well, you'll teach me and I'll fill in the gaps. So I was reading this article. This is an old article, it's from February actually, about BrewDog and its leadership style. And also it made me think about other links to other theories as well, because this company started off as a business startup in Scotland, rapidly grew, it's got quite an interesting brand, and it's very successful. So I thought this would be quite a nice 20 marker to go through. Directly links into obviously Edexcel, but leadership is a favourite topic in exam papers, be that moving from entrepreneur to leader, which is a later unit we will do, or just leadership, or it could just be about organisational culture. There's lots of links here. So moving on, these are the bullet points in leadership, and in class I will probably ask you the types of leadership style, which will just remind you of what we've done already. And here's a link to the article, by the way, and there's the date. So different types of leadership we're going to talk about are obviously going to be these. We've got to make sure that we understand the difference between management and leadership, which is some of the basics we covered in class the other day, and we'll go through that a bit in this video as well. But I need you to think about this, because like with motivational theory, we need to think about the type of worker. We need to think about the type of working environment. Now, when we're motivating workers, it might be nice if we recruited the right people in at the right time for the right job, and therefore maybe the workplace would be more suited to them. In modern recruitment, with lots of technology, and I'll touch upon this in this presentation for you, it's all about recruiting the right people in for the right culture for the business. Not necessarily always bending around the individual, which sometimes you might have to, but actually recruiting the right people. So with motivational theory, we motivate different people in different ways. So if they're theory X people and they're a bit lazy and they're just coming to work and they'll do whatever they can do to get away with the minimum, as long as they get paid, a bit of Taylorism, then that's absolutely fine as long as you manage them like that. And we would need probably something like our autocratic leadership style, which is managers know best, do as I say, this is how I want it done. And I'm going to monitor the quality of everything you do, especially in a highly standardised product like beer, for example. You want it to taste the same across the world, possibly. However, if we're thinking about different environments at different times, well, maybe BrewDog is going through rapid growth internationally. Well, can the one leader, James, and there's another founder as well, can James manage a global beer empire? Now, most of their beer sales might be in the UK, but they're growing. They've gone to India, ex-colony. Nice links to England there. Australia, same reason. Dipping their toes in the US, see how it works out. So if you think about it, and there's other countries as well, so if you think about it, managing across international borders, well, if you're an autocratic leader that says my way or the highway, maybe there's different cultures, different laws, different time zones, different languages that you need to manage. You might need to delegate some element of that. And then the article that you're going to read when you pause in a sec is about some of the problems with James's autocratic leadership style. Didn't come off very well in the BBC documentary, and yes, it was ruled as unfair, as we can see by the headline here. However, yeah, maybe James admits that he is a little bit too blunt sometimes. Yeah, maybe that's his style. Maybe as the company gets bigger and more corporate, maybe they move away from James managing the day-to-day operations and just leave him to be that figurehead, be that leader that runs things. So if you think about the different styles of leadership that we might need, and this is a product life cycle, we could use the language from this to think about the whole of BrewDog if we wanted to. So in the early stages, they might be down here. It might be James and the co-founder and a couple of people in a Scottish warehouse somewhere making loads of beer. and they're going out and they're selling the brand. As they grow, the business becomes more complex. They need people to come in with skills that maybe they don't have. International marketing, for example, managing logistics across international boundaries, managing multiple ranges of beer instead of just a small portfolio. They're upscaling because maybe they get a big contract with Tesco, so they need to double production. And they've got their full range, a range of their beers in Tesco's, for example, and all the other major supermarkets. Just taking on that upscaling might need skills that these people don't have, or limited understanding of it, or there's only so much of them that can go around, so you might need to delegate, or it limits growth. Maybe in the maturity stage, this is where there's not rapid growth, there's not rapid change, things are okay. In some markets, remember we can use different product life cycles in different markets, we might have different ways of managing and leading. Okay, in the decline stage in a market, if the US doesn't work out, for example, there might be different skills needed to actually take this dog towards where it needs to go. Maybe through an extension strategy, maybe not. Okay, so, excuse the line, this also made me think a little bit of ANSOF. Now we know that ANSOF is to do with assessing risk in different marketplaces, and maybe our leadership style might be different in different markets, again reflecting on that use of product lifecycle and Boston Matrix language previously. Okay, so we've done ANSOF. Lower sixth, we'll do ANSOF towards the end of the year as an introduction, then we'll teach it properly in the upper sixth. Upper sixth, you know this model inside and out. I'm not going through it now. So here is the article. I will give you this in class. For those of you that are just watching it, then pause the video, read the article. I've not edited it. There's loads of stuff in here that we can use. There's also quite a lot of stuff that we might not be able to. But it's the article from the Times. Read it and think about the links to different leadership styles. Which leadership style do you think James demonstrates? And is there any pros and cons to do with that you might see in this case study? Pause the video, take some notes. Hopefully pause the video. So, first of all, we need to define management. And as with everything in our notes, we should really be thinking about contextualizing everything. So we're talking about managers being running the day-to-day operations, and this could be admin, it could be operational, it could be thinking about these are the processes, this is how we make beer, this is how we sell, this is the brand identity. And we can see by these wonderful photos that I found online, this is an exciting, edgy type of beer brand. And they pride themselves in that, and there's nothing really wrong with it. It makes it stand out in a crowded market. And remember, they're in competition with the big firms that own, like that's the Iron Brew in Scotland, Heineken and Bud and stuff like that. So they are in a crowded market. Their differentiation has made them stand out, even if it is a bit quirky. So it could be those day-to-day operations, meeting the business objectives, and we understand that pyramid from mission statement, strategy, business objectives, day-to-day sort of things that are going on. It's making sure stuff gets done. And there's the goals, and consistency in this industry is very important. When I pick up a bottle of BrewDog, I expect it to taste the same as the one I had previously. So if people are messing about with the recipe, well, that's inconsistency, it will damage the brand. So leadership is really thinking about their broader vision, their strategy, and it could be that these entrepreneur business startups are actually core to the brand identity. Virgin still talks about Richard Branson. I very much doubt if he's running the day-to-day operations of whichever franchises are still going. But if you think about it, when you get on a Virgin Atlantic plane, you're not thinking that Richard Branson's running it. No, he delegates it to someone that knows how to run an airline. He's just there. He's the figurehead. And over time, he's stepped back more and more and more, even though he's still involved with many of his companies, okay, especially when there's a court case to do with some not paying their license fees in the US. Excuse me. So we're thinking about that culture. Now this is very important for this case study because if you think about it, the culture of this organisation is really important. And if James's attitude or accusations against him tarnish the reputation of the culture, they might struggle to get staff. They also might struggle to go into new markets if he's known as this overly aggressive type of leader. Yeah, maybe big supermarkets in Japan may not want that type of brand on their shelves. So we have to be very careful. So we're thinking about how complex things are, and I'm thinking we've obviously got public controversies there, as illustrated in the case study, but going into different markets, use your knowledge of Ansoff to think about this type of thing. And we're thinking about inspiration. The role of a leader is inspiring, it's that figurehead. Think about Elon Musk. When Elon decided to go out and buy Twitter, X, suddenly he was focusing on that. Their share price for Tesla went down because he wasn't focusing on the company so much. All the shareholders thought he wasn't. Now, the leaders of companies can make a huge impact, but you imagine if they get it wrong. And there have been leaders that have got it wrong over the years, and it has negatively impacted the brand. Okay, so these are obviously the different types of leadership. We've done the definitions in class. Now we need to think about these in context. Okay, so this is where you should pause and you should basically write definitions for these. I would like you to use real examples, and I'd like you to ensure that you use BrewDog for one of the leadership types. I think I might have mentioned it about 3 times, so I've sort of given it away. Pause, do the work. Hopefully you paused. So we've got those decisions from the top. It is a very much Taylorist style of managers know best. Do as I say, I will manage what you do. It doesn't mean they're horrible, by the way. This could be linked to those entrepreneurial characteristics of wanting to look after their beer baby, in this case, and they've got a clear vision for their company. Okay, and maybe that's exactly the point that BrewDog is at the moment. And actually, if it wasn't for that vision in the first place, maybe we wouldn't even be talking about BrewDog. So here's a bit of BrewDog. Look at that image. I love that image. That sort of sums up the cutting edge style of image that James wants us to believe. Basically, if you read the book there, it's basically, ignoring the rules of beer. Still a beer brand, but if we believe it's a bit more cutting edge, then maybe it stands out from Carlsberg, probably the best lager in the world. Yeah, some of those brands are a bit old and tired, aren't they? They need revitalising, and that's probably why Budweiser will come along and just offer BrewDog a lorry load of money and buy the brand. We'll see what happens in the future. So paternalistic is that family. It's that Mayo style of managing. It's understanding that pay attention to your team, look after them, care for them, protect them. Yes, you're in charge. You're the manager still. You're the leader. Yeah. So just understand who's in charge. But actually, maybe if you can build that love and belonging, I wonder what Maslow would say. We'll get those people coming into a team. Maybe this reduces labour turnover. Maybe this keeps our expert beer brewers in-house and not jumping the ship and taking their skills somewhere else. So you've got here Ratan Tata, who's well known for that caring for his family. I'm sure the Port Talbot workers feel the love at the moment, but he doesn't run the company anymore. So nice book on Amazon there for you if you want to read about him. Very interesting story, and obviously Tata has been around for a long time. He's not the founder of Tata. So democratic It's thinking about collaboration. It's acknowledging that your team have a responsibility and they really want to help. If you think about McGregor's theory X and theory Y, actually, we're not talking theory X, are we? Theory X is going to be up here with the autocratic people. But your theory Y people, they want to feel valued, they want to contribute. So these sorts of things are really important. And we also understand the pros and cons to this, which we'll go on to, which is thinking about that open communication and participation, group consensus on a plan. Gosh, that takes a long time. Yeah, it might be better for the business. Maybe we will see more democratic style of running a company when it's more stable. Or if they go into different markets where they need to listen to those country-specific experts. So thinking about Google here, I've listed some of the core Google characteristics, what they are looking for, and we can see that the culture allows them to think about how to improve. Google will give staff time, an allocation of time to create their own stuff. Hopefully it works, and if it doesn't, well, it doesn't. But also they are very target driven. Don't look on this as a weakness, giving people time off work to be creative. Google want them to create stuff that will be, the next big thing, which will maybe be the future of Google. Now, this pronunciation I apologise for laissez-faire. This is often looked on as by students as being weak management. That should not be the case, by the way. If you're just abandoning staff, well, that's not laissez-faire leadership. That's basically passive management, which we don't teach in the A level. That's just abandoning staff, and then when they get it wrong, stamp on them every now and then. That is not what we're talking about here. This is the type of leadership that acknowledges that your team is really experienced. You want to give them that freedom to do stuff. And you've still got really high standards. You still have expectations of quality, volume, profitability, for example. But if you recruit the right people in for this type of environment, then they're the theory Y people from McGregor again, aren't they? So if we're thinking about here, we couldn't have a leadership talk without having Richard Branson in. And if we think about the Virgin Group, he's got really high standards. He's been in a number of employment tribunals because people have come into his organisation and they've not been part of the Virgin brand or met his expectations. And he's got some quirkiness, especially in the old, back in time a bit, where maybe his quite direct leadership style, some would say that he was quite autocratic in some ways. Well, if things need to happen quickly, you change your leadership style, don't you? But that laissez-faire style might be, it promotes that independence, is encouraging innovation and individual responsibility. And we could link that easily into Hertzberg, couldn't we? Nice photo, Richard. So, here we are. Here's your activity which you should pause the video for. If you're my students, then you'll get a merit for each of these, but list the advantages and disadvantages for each of these, and here's the difficult bit, in context with the companies that I've just listed. Yeah? Think about the types of employees that they might employ, and really quite important for you to think about this. Correctly link it to motivational theory and I'll give you a merit. Okay, nice picture of Richard again there. I think this is when he was in Littleton. This probably is. Not sure if this is his prep school. Oh, how he's grown up. Look at that. Anyway, hopefully you can pause the video and do the activity. I'd like you to think about which types of employees might be suitable for this type of environment, for example. Pause the video. Let's crack on. Hopefully you pause the video. So, advantages as per the textbook: quick communication, clear direction. Here's what I expect of you, says the Taylorist style of manager. We are linking this into employee dissatisfaction if you employ the wrong people. So if you employ people into this type of environment that really like autonomy, they're going to get frustrated very quickly. And I've linked it into McGregor there for you. And if you think about the lack of innovation, Hertzberg would basically say, this would motivate people if you let them do this. Yeah. So if we want people to be motivated, then this type of worker. Now, this isn't all workers. Remember, there are some people, our theory X's, or the type of workers that Taylor talks about. They don't want that responsibility. They want clear direction. They want rules to follow. They want to be monitored, and they want to have a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Okay, not all workers are the same, as we know. And if we think about it, it's the type of person that just wants that directive. Yeah. So, and there we go. That repeats a little bit. I apologise. So if we think about paternalistic, we've already had the definition here. Maybe we get that family feeling. Let's think about Mayo. We can think about that family, love and belonging I've put in there for Maslow. And actually that loyalty is there. There are some organisations that are very good at bringing you into their family. And then maybe if you're thinking about if you're having a hard day, you go to another one of your team members instead of suffering alone. This helps with lots of things, including staff retention. The downside of this is we could become a little bit dependent on going to our leaders, going to that father, mother figure and trying to get that type of support. Maybe I'm not that independent or resilient. So, and here we go. Thrives, values, security. I want a supportive environment. The problem is those people that want that independence, they're going to struggle in a paternalistic style of company. So here we go. We've got Google as our example. Advantages, creativity, employee satisfaction, because I've done something. I've contributed towards a common goal. Yeah, I've been listened to. Slow decision making, like we said already, there could be potential conflicts. You could have team members that just disagree, and if you need that consensus, then you might not get it. So it could take a lot longer. And when there's urgent things that need to happen, well, there's a fire in the building. Shall we have a meeting to see how we get out? Or I'd much rather someone turned around and said, right, everyone, here's the fire exit, form an orderly queue. Okay? Some companies tend to catch on fire, maybe metaphorically. So we're thinking about the ones that thrives or struggle in there. You can read, but this is a collaborative style of management. We seek empowerment. We're using the language from Hertzberg there, aren't we? So if you think about it, those are the types of people that would be there. But then again, if you are that Theory X type of worker, democratic is not really you. Maybe you just want to sit back and chill and get on with your job and let other people who seek that type of authority, maybe you would just stand back. So we're looking for advantages of laissez-faire. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. And we've linked it into McGregor. Disadvantage, well, lack of direction, risk of neglect. Well, risk of neglect, remember, is not really laissez-faire. The problem is if you put the wrong type of worker into this environment. If you put a Theory X person, well, maybe they'll be sat in the corner of your office on social media all day instead of doing any work. So you've got to go very careful how you manage these type of interactions. And we'll look at Deloitte's recruitment structure in a second. And you can read that for yourself without me repeating. So this is Deloitte's recruitment structure. This is really useful for those of you thinking about apprenticeships or graduate jobs when you come out of uni or stuff like that. So they are all about recruiting people in that fit their culture. So if you think about it, you're going to do some research, you're going to be at home and you think, oh, I want to go to Deloitte. You prepare the normal sorts of stuff, not that you need a CV for Deloitte because it's all online, and then you go onto their website and you decide that you're going to apply. They then give you a series of tests. Most of it is marked by AI, all linked into their corporate values. You can practice this stuff for hundreds of hours if you want to before the interview. They're very supportive, very transparent about what they're looking for, and they want you to practice. And also, if you don't practice, by the way, don't be surprised if you get declined. So you're then going to do some online assessments, job simulations, problem solving, maths, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. You're then going to do a video interview, not with a person, because they'll probably use AI to assess it. So it's just like a real interview, dress for success, and rehearse using their stuff that's on their website. Then, if you pass all of that, you will be in the top 5% in the UK who have applied for the position, rough estimate, and they get tens of thousands of people apply for these jobs, so make sure you prepare. Then, at this stage, that's when you go and see a person. You might pop along to London, you go to an assessment centre, you'll do team collaborative projects. So you can imagine the type of worker that they are looking for. Yes, very bright, good at working in teams, problem solving, resilient, and also share the core values of Deloitte. So make sure you research them. Okay? But the bit here which is really interesting is all of this is before you speak to a person. That's how much money they've invested in electronic recruitment, because they want the right people. Because if they get Theory X people coming to Deloitte, they're not going to be one of the biggest consultancy firms on the planet, are they? They're not going to want to put you in front of their corporate clients if you're one of those tailor, lazy type of workers that need to be managed. Okay? Especially if you're working from home for the majority of the time. So, this is not Deloitte, this is Richard Branson. Years ago, as a Dalmatian, I went on a training course and I met the head of HR for the Virgin Group. And she told me that Branson's got a habit, he hates ties, and if you are a new employee in Virgin head office and you wear a tie on your first day, he's got a habit of coming over, grabbing your tie and chopping your tie in half. It's not bullying, it's just part of the culture at Virgin. It was one of his quirky little things. When I first heard about it, I thought, that's a bit harsh, might have been a nice tie. But it is all part of that initial, by the way, we are all part of the Virgin family and we're all working towards a common goal. Quite like it. Good idea. I'm not going anywhere near him with a tie on though. So, on to a 20 marker. It's a long video, it's a big topic. So we've got a couple of data extracts here if you want to show off. You've already had the big data extract, which is the case study at the beginning of the video. So here we have got, we could call this extract B if you like. Don't mind. We'll call this C, which is easier to write without a proper pen. So up here we can see the shaded areas are where they sell beer. Okay, we've got India, Australia, Iceland, and Germany. You can read the different countries the same as me. And up here is quite interesting because you're not allowed to use their own branding in their pubs. That's an interesting way to reduce alcohol consumption. And then we've got the USA, which might be the world's #1 seller. Yeah, maybe. Maybe their Elvis juice is very popular, but it's still a very much introduction, early growth stage in the marketplace. We'll see how it happens. So here's the 20 marker, standard 20 mark structure. We need to identify the hook. We need to identify the two different options and see what sort of knowledge we need to demonstrate for those. And also in the hook, we might need to demonstrate an understanding of that knowledge as well. So there's two definitions definitely, and possibly a third, which will be talking about, for example, international growth. So, co-founder of BrewDog aims to continue its international growth. Well, that's clearly going to be our hook, isn't it? Okay, and we recognise as a top global employer. Hang on, there's two aims in this question. That's just being greedy. So we need to make sure we cover both of those. He could use a broadly autocratic, option 1, or democratic leadership style. Option 1, define autocratic, then P paragraph in favour, P paragraph against. Option 2, democratic leadership style, define the key term, P paragraph in favour, P paragraph against. A, answer the question, linking back to the hook. We have two parts to this hook. This is a mean hook. It's a revision video. You probably won't get this in a real exam, but at least you'll be prepared if you do. And then we're going to think about a contextualised MOPS to justify our conclusion. Evaluate these two options and recommend which, as in which one, only one, is most suitable, that's most suitable for the aim. Okay, second part of the hook. I've not repeated the hook twice, like you'll normally see in modern exam questions, but we have got for a business such as BrewDog, and we know if we see that type of term, we need to either read this paragraph up here and get the aim, or go to the case study and get the aim. You're always going to get the hook in a 20 marker, so usually twice. So we've got our structure. First thing we would do is we'd go to our answer book and we would define autocratic. We then stop writing. We go to the case study and we identify two pieces of evidence for autocratic, hopefully in favour and against, because that's how we're going to write it. If you see more than two, then great. Then write your P paragraphs, then define democratic, and then go find your evidence for democratic. Write the other two paragraphs, AJ, MOPS, move on. So remember, hope you like my beer bottle, we're not aiming for perfection, we are aiming for level 4. So 24 minutes to plan, write, move on, if this was the first 20 marker. So here's our question at the top of the page, and here's an answer, which I'm not going to read through line for line. You'll see how I started with the definition to make sure I'm answering the question. At this point I would stop, probably go and get my evidence. I'm then going to write my chains of argument, and I'm going to make sure that the end of the chain of argument comes back to the hook. You'll see I've used phrases like, for example. This signposts the examiner towards the evidence in the paragraph, but more importantly reminds you to actually use some. Okay, potentially increase efficiency between the UK and the US. Okay, that's not quite the hook though, is it? So helping them grow internationally, back to one of the hooks. Then our nice use of however on a new line, and then we're talking, got a nice quotation mark there around toxic, yeah, and might lead to labour shortages around the world, okay, because of dissatisfaction, labour turnover. Remember the second part of the hook, as per the allegations, signposting the examiner and reminding you to use evidence. Okay, combined culture, fear of employee burnout. So we've got links into slow global expansion, and we've got staff in there as well. It directly answers the question. Then we're going to define democratic. Then we're going to go off to the case study, get a couple of bits of evidence. Here we go, same thing. You can read this, I'm not going to read through all of it. Approaches highlighted in the BBC documentary. Definitely using the case study evidence, hey? Engagement and decision making can improve job satisfaction and retention, linked to one of the hooks. And we've got maintaining innovative edge over global brands like Stella. Stella's not in there. Choose your favourite beer. Could be alcohol free, by the way, if you're under 18, that's absolutely fine. BrewDog do an alcohol free one. So you could have just dropped in something you know. However, counter argument, of course, remember the hooks, more agile, competitive beer market, or less agile, sorry, and we're thinking about the rapidly growing brewing industry. Yeah, responsive to consumer trends, market dynamics in different countries, directly linked to that. Okay, we've nailed the hooks. Overall, let's see if we can, the A is for answer, remember AJ MOPS. Overall, I'm going to answer the question. I recommend a democratic leadership style. Full stop. Okay, don't waffle, don't repeat the question. You're not going to get marks for repeating the question. You just need to directly answer the question. The extra marks beyond this are really from your justification, which needs to sort of badmouth the other option. Why is democratic leadership style so much better? Well, while autocratic style offers a little bit of a repeat from my answer, it might have been suitable in the early stages of its growth in Scotland. Okay, this is bringing it back to that slide we talked about, the product life cycle. The potential negatives, concerns, employee relations, and BrewDog's global public image outweigh these benefits. Come on. Yes, James, you're being very autocratic and you're very successful, and we can see how important you are to the brand, but if you keep treating staff like this, it won't just be the BBC doing documentaries on you, even though they've overruled it and you're in the top 100 in the Times Best Employers list. Here's my mops. As BrewDog continues to expand, okay, future orientated, it will face diverse customer, consumer preferences and regulatory environments which require adaptive strategies best supported by democratic approach. Okay, so your MOPS is a little bit future orientated, and actually you might want to work with lots of other people to help you navigate this more complex global environment. All we need to think about is it level 4? And without going through the standards again, you decide. You're going to mark it in class anyway, as well as cross-reference it against one of your peer-marked ones, and we'll see how we can improve this. This is about the right length probably. Most of you could write this in 24 minutes. Hopefully that was useful, and business isn't for punks, but what a lovely image, and hopefully you found that video useful. Sorry for the sound quality, left the microphone at work and on my very old MacBook.